Who would have thought that this man could take down an antelope with just one sword strike, leaving it motionless under the tree? The man was ecstatic about the antelope. It was an irresistible feast. He carried the antelope back to the camp, and with everyone's combined efforts, they prepared it and had a roast party that very day. What a scene! If I didn't know they were in a survival challenge, I'd swear they were on vacation. Is the meat really that good? When will they share the meat with everyone? Last time, they made torches and completed a migration. During the trap-making round, Tracy failed to finish and was sent home, while the others got their desired tools. Next, they must keep tackling challenges. Dan, in Africa for 29 days, marvels at nature's beauty each morning. They haven't formed groups yet. After a bit of tidying up, they need to migrate again. Jeff has already made a deal with Gary, and for him, it's now a solo competition. He's finally in his element. Gary feels the trade was totally worth it. He swapped a bow for food and a fishing net, regaining his confidence. Everyone's nearly done packing up. Now they need to migrate to another place. The new area has plenty of food, but is also much more dangerous. Facing challenges alone is really tough. The journey has been incredibly dry, but you naturally eat less than others. After 2 days of intense activity, the body really can't take it. After 2 hours of walking, the leaves are thickening as they near the riverbank. Soon, they spot a large tree. This elephant drum means they've reached the new camp. Finally, they can rest a bit. Jeff is thinking about how to eliminate the other participants. Being together isn't always beneficial. They're talking about working together to enhance the shelter. Elephant dung is all over. A regular fence won't keep them out. After some discussion, they quickly gather materials. They set up the camp. Danny clears the thorns and dung from the ground, but is too exhausted to help chop wood. Working together, they get things done much faster. Fernando almost got eliminated last night and is quite anxious about it. He's pondering his approach for the next challenge, knowing the others outmatch him in fitness and survival skills. If I don't double my efforts in the challenge, I might be the next one eliminated. Jingji Chong has almost completed his tasks. Gary, the oldest contestant, is confident he won't be eliminated. He gets along best with Jeff among the remaining participants. Despite everyone wanting him out, Gary remains confident and unfazed. Dan started by sharing resources. But as the challenge went on, he saw that no one was into that idea. Eventually, everyone had to look out for themselves. Currently, there's enough food, but Jeff is concerned his dental issues might worsen if he eats the fruits. After a brief rest, everyone feels better. As night sets in, Dan is pleased with the camp, though it's a bit tight with everyone packed together. Dan remained anxious about nearby animals, vigilantly watching the area. Keith was shocked when an elephant actually appeared. Everyone was too tense to speak, waiting silently for it to leave. Luckily, the elephant didn't enter the camp. Only then did everyone relax a bit. It was the 30th day, and from past experiences, Jeff figured there should be a challenge today, otherwise, it would be awkward just sitting around. Some had even suggested skipping team activities. Some participants prefer to continue the challenge solo. As anticipated, the showrunners have set up a new task. They must travel to a location to unearth survival tools. One person won't get a new tool, but the good news is that everyone can share. The question is, will they? Deciding to work together and share water is vital now. After a brief discussion, everyone heads to the destination. Watching Jeff and his team sprint, Gary hopes someone drops out on the hill. Jeff aims to search the farthest spot. He knew it was somewhere in the vast white hills, making it hard to find. Despite Jeff's seemingly reckless running, he's been meticulously planning to stay close to the target. When he spots a white hill, he acts without hesitation. He grabbed a wooden stick and jabbed it inside. Whether there was anything inside didn't matter, the main goal was to make the others think. As expected of Jeff, he's always so cunning with his tactics. Meanwhile, Dan and Trick have found a termite mound. Trick successfully located some paracord, which is much stronger than regular rope. The key is that it's easier to carry. Dan quickly moved on to the next spot. New tools will be hard to come by from now on. Trick aims to outdo Jeff and Gary to become the next legendary contestant. Meanwhile, Jeff and Dank have reached the graveyard area. The race is on to see who can find and dig it up first. Dank suspects it's in the Warthog Cave and starts digging right away. Seeing this, Jeff is extremely nervous. He doesn't want the tools to be taken by others. He really wants to jump in and fight for it. Gary and Danny choose to take it slow. There's no need to rush. Baichio's side has already been taken. The other spot will be crowded, and Danny doubts she'll succeed, so she decides to return to camp and rest. Gary isn't too concerned, his tools are practical enough. However, he's a bit worried Danny might faint. Frando and Kaiser are quite anxious. They can't come out empty-handed, right? Everyone is just watching Danny dig the hole. Frando suddenly feels like this isn't trash. Could it be the tool? He immediately starts digging with his knife. The others feel like clowns. How did they miss it? They never thought Frando would find an iron pin. It might be useful in the next challenge. Jeff thinks Frando is really low-key. No one would pay attention to him. Although his skills aren't very strong, his spirit of competing to the end is quite admirable. Trick plans to share the use of this paracord. He forms a temporary team with Kaiser and Dank. Jeff thinks he can join in too. It's obvious that Trick is targeting Jeff and Gary, aiming to eliminate them. This makes Jeff very angry. Everyone else can rest and chew on jerky, but Danny has to go find edible food. He spots some edible leaves nearby, but he needs to eat a lot to keep up with the others. His body feels like it can't take it anymore. Desperately needing food to regain energy, he has only found fruits on the trees, but they are toxic to humans. If it were any other edible thing, Danny feels he could keep going if he doesn't get protein in the next few days. Completing the upcoming challenges will be tough for Danny. It's amazing he's held on this long. I struggle to go a day without meat, and he's having an even harder time. Later, Danny feels particularly unwell, like something is tugging at him. He barely made it to the 31st day. Danny didn't sleep well all night. The worst part is that everyone else thinks he should leave. He feels abandoned. Despite his efforts, Danny has been a vegetarian since childhood. People never really accepted him. He hoped things would improve with age, but he still got odd looks. Dank didn't mind vegetarians, but living off just plants in the wild was impossible. You needed meat to stay full. Now they were gathering more resources. Gary went to the waterhole to look for prey. He wondered how the meat would taste. He hid and waited for animals, but they were too scared to approach, so he had to clear the area a bit. He made sure not to scare the animals away. Finally, an antelope came by, and he immediately aimed his bow and arrow. Unfortunately, he missed. A branch obstructed his shot, otherwise they'd be dining on antelope. Jeff was also looking for a water-rich spot to hunt. A place like this waterhole was ideal for setting up a hideout. Numerous animal tracks suggested abundant prey. Jeff swapped half his food for a bow and arrow. If he could successfully hunt, it would be a great deal. Meanwhile, Dan, Frando, and Trick decided to go fishing. The issue was, the pond had no fish, just tadpoles. They opted to use a net to see what they could catch. If they could catch tadpoles for bait, that would work. After several tries, they managed to scoop some up. It was better than starving. They admired Dani's perseverance, as she spent extra time and energy finding food. It was impressive she had lasted this long. Now, Dani was trying to find bird nests to get some eggs. Some might ask if eggs are vegetarian. For Dani, they were. Otherwise, how would she get protein? Luckily, she found several bird nests in the trees, but they were all empty. It looked like she would have to go back to eating fruits. On the other hand, Dank had caught a dozen frogs. They were just a snack. Dan was envious when he saw this. If he weren't a vegetarian, he would have had a much easier time here. But Dan didn't give up and kept going. Dank couldn't understand this. There weren't many edible plants around. It took so much time and effort to find them. The show shouldn't have invited him. He hated seeing others starve and suffer. Jeff also returned empty-handed. Seeing the frogs made him feel worse. Trick even teased him, asking if he wanted to trade for some meat. This made Jeff furious. He wanted survival tools more than food. Dank cooked all the frogs in a pot. It did smell quite good. He didn't hog the frogs. Instead, he shared some meat with Jeff and Gary. Jeff saw Dank forming alliances. He was really angry and wanted to eliminate them all. Gary wanted to trade some salt for food. Jeff cautioned him against rash decisions, noting that eating unsalted meat would weaken them. They could hunt for meat later, so there was no need to trade. They don't need to team up. Jeff prefers hunger over wasting salt. It's now day 32 of the challenge. The heat remains unbearable. While everyone scrambles for resources, Dani is too ill to stand. It feels like he's been hit hard in the kidneys. The pain is so severe he can't talk, and he's shaking uncontrollably. Everyone could tell something bad had happened just by looking at the situation. If it weren't for the faint signs of life, Fernando might have thought Dani was about to invite everyone to a feast. Call the doctor right away and check it out if Dani stays by the fire and has the hides on him. If he's still feeling cold, the situation is quite serious. The doctor arrived quickly and found it worse than we thought. Danny's been without protein for too long. He's incredibly weak. If this keeps up, he won't survive. We have to get him to a hospital for treatment. Malnutrition combined with extreme exhaustion. If we had found him any later, we might have been planning a funeral. Everyone thought Danny might pass out from malnutrition, but no one expected it to be this severe. It just goes to show that in a survival situation, it's really hard for vegetarians to cope. Gary just hopes he can get treatment soon. Before the showrunners made a decision, Dan offered to look after Danny, hoping it would ease his discomfort. Shortly after, the show team devised a plan. They chose to move him to a better hospital for treatment. The doctor feared his organs were failing, and any delay could be deadly. Not everyone can handle this challenge. Danny's pain is so intense he can't speak. He just wants to leave as soon as possible. Finally, with Dank's help, they got him onto the stretcher. Danny really gave it his all for this challenge. Dank hopes the show will invite him back next time. As a vegetarian, lasting this long is no small feat. Danny isn't too pleased about it. He believes he could have completed the challenge. Honestly, I'm not surprised at all. If the meat eaters are struggling, how could a vegetarian manage? Maybe he could have lasted longer if we weren't in Africa. Dank is in a pretty bad mood right now. With only 6 contestants left, it looks like the finals are just around the corner. Gary wants to stay with Danny, but he knows the challenge continues. He must gather enough food before the next round. Last time, he almost won, but fell short due to a lack of sustenance. So this time, he's been hunting tirelessly. Anything will do. Meanwhile, Trick and Flander head to another pond. There can't be no fish here too, right? The problem is, they don't want crocodiles. Trick was so scared he stepped back to observe. Yesterday, Gary was thinking about trading with words, but then Jeff said something, which made Trick really angry. They were teammates at the beginning, but now it seems Trick needs to reassess Jeff. He didn't expect Jeff to fall into his trap. That was an impressive shot. Gary's never hunted solo before. He wants to show he's capable. He couldn't let Trick look down on him. Just then, an antelope came to drink water. He quickly grabbed his bow and aimed. Although I hit the target, it didn't seem fatal. Gary quickly moved to follow it. He had to deal with it before other animals got to it. Gary's hunting skills were poor. He frightened the antelope as he neared. When Trick and Flander returned, they found out Danny had left. They didn't expect her to be that weak. I'm really worried I might end up needing the medics too. Jeff and Keith had no luck today. When they heard Danny quit, everyone felt down, except Jeff, who saw it as a step closer to winning. With Danny gone, Keith is now the last female contestant. She needs to work even harder to showcase female strength. Dank mentioned that Danny didn't leave any tools behind. Suddenly, Jeff seems to realize that Dank will stay. It's clear they're after those supplies. If Danny had stayed, she would have given them to Gary. There would be more to talk about at night. Gary is still on the antelope's trail, enduring the scorching heat. It's pure torture, but spotting the bloodstains on the ground. All this effort is worth it. The bloodstains are getting more frequent. Gary thinks it must be nearby. Sure enough, there it was under the tree ahead. He got the hunt on camera at last. Now Trick can't criticize him anymore. Hurry up and clean up the antelope. The internal organs must be all taken out to avoid rotting. Gary directly picked up a piece of internal organs and ate it raw. This tastes amazing. Everyone should try it. Let's quickly take it back to camp to cook. He's eager to see Trick's reaction. No one thought Gary would succeed in hunting. Unlike some, he'll share the meat. I'm referring to Trick. He needs to learn about sharing. Tonight, everyone should just enjoy the meat. Trick wasn't uncomfortable, since he had already made fish for Gary. It seemed like they had patched things up. In truth, Trick was only after the salt, and Jeff immediately saw through his act. Kinman needs to have a serious talk with Gary. Gary was really upset about Danny leaving, since they had been close partners from the start. Suddenly, the meat in his hand lost its flavor. Kinman could share it, and everyone eagerly pitched in to prepare it. Gary only had to sit and rest, while Jeff longed for similar treatment. Their teamwork sped up the process. Quickly, they prepare the meat. Gary asks about Danny's belongings, and Dank claims he kept them as mementos. Gary found it hard to believe. He had helped Danny so much, there must be something left behind. He was convinced Dank had taken it. If Danny was in her right mind, she would have definitely left something for him. I hope Dank brings out the animal hide, or Gary is really going to be mad. After some back and forth, Gary got what he wanted, and the meat was roasted over the fire, and everybody could get a lot of meat to eat. No matter what Gary was like before, he did a good job this time. If it weren't for the upcoming challenges, I honestly think he's just here for a vacation. Jeff sees them as hypocrites, and only Gary would buy into it. Anyway, he clearly saw they were just being fake. When push comes to shove, they wouldn't behave that way. On the 33rd day of the challenge, Trick had serious issues with Jeff, especially regarding the salt. He refuses to trade the salt, worried it will help everyone recover too much. They need a serious talk to resolve this. Jeff didn't expect Trick to be so blunt. Being a seasoned player, he immediately denied it, saying he just wanted to trade the salt. He let Gary go through with the trade, insisting Trick was mistaken, but Jeff had been plotting the whole time. Trick really wants to punch him first. There's nothing more to say. He set his sights on Jeff. Look for a chance to eliminate him. Jeff was thrilled to hear this. Finally, someone remembered that this is a competition. On the outside, he appeared calm, but inside, he was buzzing with excitement, ready for a challenge. Trick follows Keith and Dank to the pond, hoping to form a small team to make it to the finals. Awkwardly, Flander is there too, but has been left out. Gary and Jeff's group won't take him in either. They won't welcome him either. Man, how did I end up as a lone wolf? Anyway, I should focus on what needs to be done. I need to stay under the radar, avoid errors, and keep moving forward. Keith didn't think the crocodile would bite. If only he had the right hook. I would have set traps for the crocodile ages ago. Good thing I let go in time, or I'd have been pulled under. It's no shock that Trick and Jeff are rivals. Dank has wanted Jeff gone for ages. Meanwhile, Gary is still handling the leftover meat. Jeff hopes they can team up to avoid being singled out. The only person he trusts now is Gary. No one saw the storm coming after the challenge. Unprepared, we all had to huddle by the fire to keep warm. We barely survived the night, shivering despite the animal skins. Now that the weather's better, we need to quickly gather firewood. To bring back, but the showrunners are at it again with a challenge in this weather. It's so frustrating. Today, they must craft a digging tool, useful for setting traps and building shelters. The practicality of this in survival is very high. Tomorrow, they will head to the destination for digging, which means they have to abandon this camp. Even though the resources there are supposedly better, we're really struggling physically. Flander insists it's not an issue. Earlier, I got a shovel and an axe for digging. I can't see how I could lose tomorrow's challenge. Flander feels like he's getting a bit overconfident. To avoid being eliminated, Jeff trades his own belongings. Hoping Flander will trade for a tool, everyone else is against the idea. Tomorrow might be the perfect chance to send Jeff home. Right now, only Flander has a digging tool. Jeff thinks it's crucial to make the trade. Flander pondered for a while. Ultimately, Flander agrees to the trade, but they need to discuss the details privately. Dank believes Jeff is taking a significant risk. Trick claims Jeff is just afraid and doubts his skills. Jeff believes he won't lose anything. If he fails the challenge tomorrow, then extra meat won't help. Besides, he has enough salt blocks, so giving away half is fine. Flander ignores others' opinions and trusts his judgment, trading an axe for 15 rocks. Trick and Dank doubt Jeff's decision, believing he'll regret it soon. Meanwhile, the others search for materials to make digging tools. Right now, they can only think of using sticks and bones. Actually, the fruit shells are pretty good too. They're hard enough for digging. Gary hasn't found suitable materials. Digging with sticks isn't very efficient, so he packs up everything that might be useful. Gary hopes his gathered items will be useful for tomorrow's challenge. Jeff, already equipped with a good tool, continues collecting materials to hinder others from finding quality ones. While everyone else is focused on the challenge, Jeff is the only one sabotaging behind the scenes, which Trick notices that the bones lack usable parts. Thus, Jeff drives the show's drama. Keith comes back to camp. Cleaning the fruit, compared to the other contestants, is really weak and can only make up for it with skill. He plans to sharpen the sticks for digging. Everyone is busy making tools to ensure they can handle tomorrow's challenge smoothly. Except for Flander, everyone is very anxious. If tomorrow is an elimination round, Trick hopes Jeff will be the one to go. Gary is ready, eating meat to fill his stomach. Interestingly, the meat is starting to rot again. Gary plans to eat it all, not worried about getting sick. If Gary really has a problem, Jeff would get the remaining equipment. The storm is about to hit again, so everyone has to stop working. To collect firewood and strengthen the camp, they still need to move tomorrow. This place is truly unlivable. The rain keeps pouring all night. Sparks keep flying and burning their skin. They can only wrap themselves in animal skins. In such conditions, no one can sleep soundly. They anxiously await better weather, but morale is low. Gary's stomach feels very uneasy. Even the strongest stomach can't handle rotten meat. Gary had diarrhea all night. He barely made it to dawn, feeling absolutely terrible, and now he has to face migration and challenges. He doesn't even know if he can make it through. Everyone packs up and heads to the destination, utterly exhausted. He can't believe he made it. Luckily, no one gets eliminated today. But the downside? The last place must obey the winner's orders. Isn't this Jeff's favorite part? Who knows what will happen next? Let's wait and see.